love the opportunity to address some of the comments and concerns that were raised to you.
Please do.
I know you heard some concerns about sovereign immunity. I want to explain exactly how that works. The language that you see in the bill is exactly the same language that you would see not only in a Chapter 190 CDD, but it comes directly out of the Florida statutes and is applicable to all governmental bodies in the state of Florida. But I think it's important to recognize that because the language is included in the bill does not mean that all 24,000 acres within the ENCPA are therefore subject to and limited by sovereign immunity. It means that projects undertaken by the district or lands owned by the district will share in the state's sovereign immunity, just as when Nassau County, who also has sovereign immunity, when they award a construction contract, that contract and the tort liability associated will be governed by those principles. But it doesn't mean that tort liability is capped all throughout Nassau County. Obviously, we know that's not the case.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, please.
Question. So Michael Adams spoke to the water quality issue, and if there was a, I don't know what it would be, but somehow you damaged water, and the state then found the developer liable, it wouldn't be capped for that particular act. If you're talking about the sovereign immunity capped is for specific actions, but not.
Correct. It caps our liability in tort. It doesn't. It does not cap, for example, our liability for environmental contamination penalties. So if we were to be found in violation of a permit for a district project undertaken, sovereign immunity wouldn't impair the ability of the Water Management District or the DEP to address those or to seek damages, nor would it apply to all the private work that will go on within the ENCPA. So if, to pick on Rayonier, if Rayonier were to do that work, sovereign immunity has nothing to do with that.
Very good. And just a couple other questions of some of our presenters. Again, whether we were to deny the creation of the CDD as proposed, the development continues. This is not before the delegation of whether or not we approve the development or not approve the development. Should the development, community development district fail today, or if we were to approve it going forward in the legislature and fail subsequently in the legislature as it moves forward, development would still, I mean, you're already building now.
That's correct. The decision before you is not about whether or not the development proceeds within the ENCPA. And so some of the concerns that we've heard, whether it's water quality, access to affordable housing, healthcare facilities, those are all growth management decisions, and they have been made to the extent the sector plan is approved, and they'll continue to be made by the county. That is not before you.
Barbara Adams and Tom Placidio also commented on wells running dry. This approval of the CDD does not usurp the authority of the River Water Management Districts, their oversight over the development or any of the agencies that you still have to seek approval for as you develop the property. That's still there. We don't usurp that. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct. Nothing about this bill will change any of those regulatory schemes or enable anybody to immediately go out and drill a well or do anything. Those will all be subject to those regulatory mechanisms.
And to follow up, so that includes EPA and DEP.
Absolutely.
We're subject to all of those regulations.
We are subject to all of them under general law.
The federal government, state government, and all the other
And Nassau County.
additional state regulations. And Mr. White talked about the accountability for wrongdoing. Can you discuss?
Sure, and in fact, I would say that the only way that the development within the NCPA would have less accountability is if we don't have the Stewardship District. Because what this does, by having those kinds of infrastructure decisions and projects undertaken in the public domain, it's being taken by a public body who has to meet in the sunshine. All of its records will be public records. Its elected officials making those decisions are subject to governmental ethics and all of those things. So it actually provides greater accountability.
Very good. If I buy a house, I'm in Wildlight Village. I pay an extra $2,000 a year to the Community Development District. Does that go to our tax collector, John Drew, and then he subsequently passes that on to the Community Development District? Is that
yes, typically it would be collected on the Nassau County tax bill, and then the district receives those monies back on a periodic basis throughout the year as taxes roll in. But just, and again, to make sure we're clear, all of the Nassau County property taxes and other fees that are on that tax bill are still being paid to Nassau County. It's in addition to, so you're paying a little more for the services and facilities that the district would be providing. you're also still paying everything that you would be paying to Nassau County, regardless, if there was no district. All of those fees are still coming in. And so we've heard some concerns about how mobility trust fund fees are being applied. I want to point out how the Nassau County and the primary landowner have negotiated and how those fees are applied happens regardless of whether you approve this district or not. And that's the important point. Nothing about this approval changes tax revenue that flows from these properties to Nassau County. So that's, again, a local decision Nassau County has made, and they'll continue to make those decisions on a going forward basis. There was a question about gates. I just want to point out that there is language relating to security gates in the Act. It is standard language out of Chapter 190, but it has been modified in consultation with the county staff and the county commission to be clear that the district can only undertake those activities after executing an interlocal agreement with the county to make sure that the county is very comfortable with how those things would be applied within our boundaries. The only other thing I would like to address is you received several comments about a referendum. From our perspective, there have been over 25 plus hearings on the ENCPA and its various development approvals over time. As it relates to the approval of this district, we've had a workshop with the county commission. We've had a hearing in front of the county commission. We're here with you tonight. If you approve it, as we hope you do, we'll continue to have hearings before various legislative committees. I would say that the citizens of Nassau County always have a voice. They exercised that recently when they went to the polls. They elect county commissioners, they elect statewide representatives, and that is very consistent with our form of government, and so we would be opposed to that. Happy to answer any other questions you have.
Nothing further.